Alright folks, the devil of Hell's Kitchen is back. And this time, he's not just throwing punches, he's throwing election debates into the mix. Daredevil Born Again has finally landed, and the big question is, did Marvel bring Matt Murdock back with a bang? Or did they trip over their own continuity like a blind man in a china shop? So the story picks up with Matt trying to rebuild his life. Again, because, let's be real, this guy's life is basically a never-ending renovation project. Meanwhile, Wilson Fisk is out here running for mayor of New York City. Yep, the Kingpin decided that instead of ruling the city from the shadows, he'd just run it legally. I mean, if Batman's villains can get into politics, cough, penguin cuff, why not Fisk? Of course, Matt can't just ignore this, because a world where Wilson Fisk has actual government power is basically a season finale waiting to happen. Now let's talk about the action, because that's what we all came for, right? The good news, Daredevil still fights like he's in an R-rated video game on the hardest difficulty. The bad news, it's almost as brutal as the Netflix version, but you can feel Disney tapping the brakes in certain spots. The hallway fights are still here, but they don't quite have that "I just watched a man's soul leave his body" energy that made the original series iconic. That being said, when the fists start flying, the choreography still slaps harder than Fisk backhanding his enemies into next week. And speaking of Fisk, Vincent D'Onofrio, still an absolute menace. The man could read bedtime stories and still sound like he's plotting world domination. His performance? Chef's kiss. Then there's Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, aka what if a tank had daddy issues? Jon Bernthal once again delivers pure, unfiltered rage. And every time he's on screen, you just know things are about to get messy. And by messy, I mean bullet holes in walls messy. Karen and Foggy are back too, but their screen time is a little, let's say, economical. You know how you sometimes get a pizza and the toppings are only on half of it? That's kind of how their presence feels. They're here, but you'll definitely wish there was more. Now let's get to the real tea. Is it as good as the Netflix Daredevil? Well, yes and no. It's still a solid show, and Charlie Cox is still perfect as Matt Murdock, but you can tell Marvel is trying to tweak the formula to fit into the larger MCU. Some of it works, some of it feels a little too safe, but overall, it still leagues better than most of the MCU's recent Disney Plus outings. So should you watch Daredevil Born Again? Absolutely. If you love the Netflix version, you'll find plenty to enjoy here. Just lower your expectations slightly, because while this show still has the grit, the blood, and the bone-crunching fights, you can feel that little bit of corporate interference softening the edges. But hey, at least Matt didn't show up cracking jokes every 5 minutes, so we'll take that as a win. What did you think? Did Born Again live up to the hype, or do you miss the good old days of pure, unfiltered hallway violence? Let me know in the comments. And while you're at it, hit that like button, subscribe to the Cinemeld, and remember, if Wilson Fisk ever runs for mayor in real life, just move to another city.